All right. Hi, everyone. Here we are on another AI conversation. I'm here joined by Noemi Mejia, mathematician and turning to law student. I'd like to hear about that. Over to you, Noemi. Maybe you can tell our audience a little bit about yourself.
So, hi everyone. I'm Noemi. You can just call me Noemi. I was a machine learning engineer for almost 5 years, and then I was a law student at the same time. So, hopefully graduating this July,
Wow.
and
Yeah.
yeah, yes, just a few days time. So, yeah.
Okay. Sige, as we, I guess, discussed, Noemi, no, if you want to start, maybe start with why you're taking up law. Why suddenly after 5 years of ML, suddenly you want to pick up the legal profession? What got you interested?
It wasn't actually one after the other. It was both at the same time. So, the day after I graduated from college, from the University of Asia in the Pacific, where I majored in math, I entered law school. And
Wow.
then just a few days after, and then a few months into law school, I figured I think I can work at the same time since law school is expensive. So from being a full-time law student, I joined an insurance company. And initially, I was a junior data scientist. That was the role. And then a few months later, they opened up career tracks. So I shifted to data engineering and then became a machine learning engineer.
Ah, wow. Tell me about that. Kasi usually, parang data engineers are kind of this weird minority, no?
Mhm.
The way I would describe them. Because I've done a lot of data engineering work myself. It's not as mainstream as data science.
Mhm.
So did you intentionally want to become a data engineer?
Not really. I didn't even know that existed, that track existed. I only knew data scientists. And I think usually that's the trend with companies now. They only know data scientists, but then they give data engineering tasks. They give some, I think, give data architecture, like wrangling the data, doing ETL, which is not really typically what data scientists would do. So I think it's transitioning now. So they know data engineering, they know data science particularly. So doon nag-separate yung tracks. And initially, I didn't want to be a data. It's not
You
I
didn't
didn't
want to
want
be?
to be. It's not I didn't want to be. I didn't know that it existed, that track existed. So when it opened up, I was like, why not? So ayun, I shifted to it, and it was fun. I did it for 4 years, so it should be fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's not kasi the sexy job.
Mhm. Yeah,
In
yeah.
fact, ano nga eh, how does one become a data engineer, no? Just outright, no? Like in your
Mhm.
case, you clearly came from a data
Mhm.
science background.
Yes.
What was the shift in thinking and in the work pag nag-data engineer na?
More of, I think, I also didn't come from a statistics background, so I came from an applied math background where I did it wasn't actually hindi siya subjects in college, like electives, data warehousing,
Right.
what else? We did business intelligence. So those are definitely not just limited to data scientists. So doon ko na realize na my skills are more into the data engineering role, more of the data science, because hardcore statistics yung data scientist, and that's not really my strength, although I try to learn over time. Pero what I can actually do at the moment is data engineering. So, yeah.
And then the shift from data eng naman to machine learning engineer. How was that?
That was kind of confusing internally because what we were actually doing was machine learning engineering na, but the job title was data engineer. This kind of weird. So I think that shift was not really a shift, but like more of a a career title, or like a job title shift lang. Pero what we were actually doing was machine learning engineering, since we were supporting data scientists and not really hardcore data engineering na ETL, or we had separate people for that kind of task. And yeah, I think that's the current trend with companies. Whenever I try to, I used to look for, I used to look for other jobs, and medyo misleading because some would be looking for data scientists, for example, but the tasks, if they have the job description, it's more of business analyst, because you would be doing dashboards, you'll be doing gathering information, gathering requirements, and then generating reports. So that's more of a business intelligence analyst type of work.
Yep.
But the misnomer is it's called data scientist. So I think
Do you draw a
common
distinction between those two? I mean, if
in where I used to work, we differentiated those three. So we had business analysts, we had data scientists, and then we had machine learning engineers. So those are the distinctions. But I think some people do all three, which is I think common now. And then they're all called data scientists. So yun yung medyo confusing in the market, I think. But yeah, that's common, and that's what I went through in my
Mhm.
4 years.
Okay. So, sige, 4 years data engineer, machine
Mhm.
learning engineer, now taking up law.
Mhm.
Um, Obviously the big story now is artificial intelligence, right?
Yes.
It's the new old story because it's been around for some time. What were your first thoughts when AI became mainstream back in November, I think, with ChatGPT? And has that affected your basically your career decisions up to now, no?
Hmm. I like I I mentioned to you previously, back when ChatGPT became all the hype, parang I sounded like a very cynical person na telling my friend, "Oh, that's not new. It's been here for ages. That's just parang something that became popularized with ChatGPT." But technically, well, it's true that AI has been here for ages. We just don't notice it in 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 actual in actual practice. But we actually use artificial intelligence maybe every day. For example, in YouTube, the recommender system is there. That's AI. The spam in our emails, that's also AI. So we've been exposed to AI for so long. We just don't notice it. And it's just ChatGPT that gave all the hype to AI once again. Pero created, what it triggered probably is the legal interest in AI.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I've been interested in also. The intricacies surrounding AI when it comes to regulation. So that's, I think, what's more interesting to me than AI itself. It's the regulation and how people feel about regulating AI.
Yeah.
So that's the difference. And I think that's the that's the merge between my two different fields. So the data science field and the law field all merge into that regulation.
Did you find it hard to marry like data science and yeah, and the legal field as it stands today, in the Philippines, or even as you're studying it? Were there inherent parang incompatibilities, misconceptions that kind of make it hard? Because I would argue if
Mhm.
it was a natural match, we would have already had it for years,
Mhm.
diba? Pero for some reason, parang hindi. Or at least that's my impression. What do
Mhm.
you think?
I don't think it's like mutually exclusive, but definitely the data science field is evolving faster than the law. It's I think that's always the case. The law is always late, not really late, but it's reactionary. It always just happens after the fact has already occurred. So in this case, we can uh parang we can regulate or give any put legal regulations around AI when something hasn't happened yet. Kasi parang on the other hand, it does protect the people, but on the other hand, it also might stifle innovation. So that's the parang difficulty in marrying the two subjects, but definitely not mutually exclusive. It's just that one is faster than the other.
in
So
terms of parang changes, no? Parang
yeah,
the legal field is quite inert relative to
that's true.
data, no? So how does that put someone like you? I mean, obviously you want to see the kind of the convergence. What kind of opportunity are you seeing for yourself, and the reason why you want to parang pivot into this parang blended domain, no?
One of the things I'm not naman passionate about but very interested in kasi it relates to what I did in machine learning engineering, data privacy issues. That's definitely it's not naman limited to AI, but definitely AI uses a lots and lots and lots of data, and our current data privacy laws are not that stringent right now,
Mm-hmm.
compared to other countries, definitely. And that's what I'm very interested about, and the AI regulation, because I know a lot of people now are thinking about putting a stop to AI, like what they do in the US, putting a pause, I think that's what they call it, a pause on AI. um there have been legislators right now talking about AI being like basically doomsaying na AI will wipe out jobs. We have to stop it at this moment. We have to think about what will happen if the AI takes over jobs. So that's what I'm also interested in, because I don't believe it's true. First and foremost, I don't think AI can take over jobs at the moment. But yeah, it's definitely worth something to think about.
I mean that fear of jobs
Mm-hmm.
loss, no, that seems to be a very popular one.
Mm-hmm.
You have kind of a more nuanced take on it. Like, is it really going to displace a lot of people? Like, I would always argue in terms of historical
Mm-hmm.
parang precedent, no? Like when we switched from horses to cars in the
Mm-hmm.
second industrial revolution. Well, clearly the horse people got displaced, but
Mm-hmm.
it happened over decades.
Mm-hmm.
Or when we moved from, what's the easiest thing? Ah, yeah, the paging industry. I don't know if you still
Mm-hmm.
remember, no? People had pagers. So though that was a fairly well populated profession, like people
Mm-hmm.
running the paging, the salespeople, and then then the technology shifted to cell phones. Parang in their case, they just migrated to another parang a parallel industry, but
Mm-hmm.
the jobs remain the same. So do you have a perspective on kind of the job displacement for AI, or at least the way you might argue it eventually legally? You know, how would that work?
In general, hmm, I don't think AI will wipe out jobs. I think it will just replace the work that's technically how do you call it? The business as usual work or the routinary work,
Hmm.
because those will definitely be automated. It's happening right now. Um, and but I don't think it will wipe out jobs in the sense that it will create jobs that, well, people still have to monitor the AI, right?
Yeah.
Um, People still have to operate it, people still have to maintain it, quality check, assurance, and all that. So it's just it will not be the same jobs that they had before, but uh having AI in the workplace will definitely create a need for some other jobs. Maybe just not the same, but it will still create jobs.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Let's go muna to the
Mhm.
kind of the present, no. Many people encountered AI only the first time, maybe because of Chat
Yeah.
GPT. But for example, professionals like you have been handling machine learning and AI for some
Mhm.
time, no? Can you talk about some interesting projects or
Mhm.
initiatives you've been involved in, and how generally how does the AI work in that respect?
I can only speak for where I came from. So from the insurance company I was in, we did automate a lot of so I won't call it machine learning, but it's automation for us. The manual what's this? The manual encoding of data that's already been automated. So in our case, that didn't technically replace people, although that kind of work, for example, inputting manually in Excel sheets will take up maybe 5 hours in overtime. So
Forever, right?
instead of instead of having people spend 5 hours on that task alone, we would automate it. So they would have more time to, well, eliminate overtime in the first place, but also they would have more time to do other tasks. So that didn't replace them. It just made them more available for more complex kinds of jobs.
Mhm.
That's what we did. And another thing is mostly, what's this? Mostly cost optimization projects. Like how do we route um advertisements in emails to customers in the most efficient way, or when do we send it, who do we send it to that will be the most profitable for us, who do we target that who do we which customers do we target na mag-generate ng more possibility of sales. So
Yep.
propensity modeling. Those are very simple, I would say. It's not ChatGPT level complex, but it's still it's still machine learning. And that's what we've been mostly doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
In
Those are the
terms of,
commons.
like, yun na nga, the big change has been parang the move from
Mm-hmm.
parang discriminative type of AI,
Yeah.
or AI that in a way interprets data, to more generative types of AI which generates data instead.
Mm-hmm.
How do you see the use of AI changing because of this, no? Lalo na for companies you used to work with, kasi that's going to be one of the biggest questions eventually. Like, how do corporations, how do enterprises, or how would data scientists or engineers such as yourself adapt to this new parang availability of this new technology? Any
Mm-hmm.
thoughts about that?
As in, uh, as as I used to be part of the insurance company, it's healthcare. So I would say it wouldn't be very useful because it's hard to manipulate or use or feed healthcare data since
Right.
it's very, very sensitive.
Mm.
And it doesn't just include healthcare data, but also financial information. We track yeah, basically very sensitive personal information that I wouldn't trust to feed to a machine
Totoo
and then
yan.
give me a result that I would trust 100%.
Mhm.
Maybe I would use it, but the final say would be up to me, something like that. So I wouldn't rely on it if I were still in the insurance company. I wouldn't rely on it 100%. Maybe just maybe just I don't know, not really 50%, even less probably, because it's very sensitive data, and whatever I churn out would probably be uh I would say it risks being discriminatory also,
Correct.
since it involves financial data. So I might have bias, I might have discrimination, and that's risky.
Yeah.
So I'd rather not. I'd rather not, basically.
Yeah, I think that's a good point you're making about for more, let's say, standard corporate use cases, no.
Mm-hmm.
It may take time before corporations pick it up because there's
Mm-hmm.
already a lot of number one, the privacy component. Number two,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's hard to police the output. So, any thoughts about kind of the risks, no, of these kinds of models as you see them? So obviously that's one
Mm-hmm.
potential application of your new career, no, if you're going to be
Mm-hmm.
involved in law.
Yeah.
Do you foresee any, like, what are the first few cases you expect to get, when you finally, become a lawyer practicing this?
What I am expecting is, first of all, tort cases. So, um, tort cases basically are how do I explain that? I suddenly have to explain the legal concept, but it's
Simple lang. Make it simple.
when you experience discrimination, for example, or injury, not really physical injury, but for example, you get denied a claim and you say that it's, oh, they denied my claim because it's because of my age, because of my social status. So those kinds of cases I definitely foresee in the future, because yeah, I'm really scared, not really scared, but worried about models na if not quality assured would definitely be discriminatory or biased in one way or another.
Yeah.
And it's hard to explain kasi it's possible to be discriminatory as long as you have basis for it. But how if for example AI models are being handled by just anyone
Yeah.
don't have a statistics background, for example, or they didn't do the model themselves from scratch, they don't know the inputs, they don't know the variables that went into it, the parameters and stuff, they won't be able to explain why.
Yeah.
That's the thing. So some models like what's a black box model, artificial neural networks,
Neural
or some
networks.
of
Right.
them are very black box that even those with statistics background sometimes have difficulty explaining even.
Yeah.
So what more those without background? So that's very difficult. And the companies run the risk of being, yeah, discriminatory, and they won't be able to explain why. That's the hard part, I think.
Yep. Yep. Okay. Can you, if we roll back the clock
Mhm,
to when you were starting out
mhm,
into data science, obviously you already have kind of a math background, so that might
mhm,
have been an advantage. And compare that to, I don't know how many you have met, like aspiring data scientists or data analysts nowadays, no? And it's, how long was this? For like 5 years lang naman between that time and now.
yeah.
Can you contrast the environment for learners today? Like, is it generally easier or harder to break into the field of data science and engineering? And then now we have AI coming in, Pat.
I'm sure it's easier now. Back then, it was hard. First, it was very hard to look for jobs that are in the data science field. All they had before was data scientists or data analysts. That's it. And you're expected to have, I remember seeing job descriptions that required like 5 years of experience or at least 3 years
Wow.
of experience.
Entry level?
And for, yeah, and for not even a parang supervisory level position. So that was hard. The market was very parang stringent back then.
Mhm.
But now, thanks to like schools getting more into the education part of data science, they teach data science now. They not just statistics, but they also teach basic data science, and that's important. So it's definitely easier now, and courses are available online now more than before.
Yep.
Those are definitely easier. So with no also the programming languages, I
Right.
struggled with that before. So we didn't have, for example, Python. I think we did, but it's exclusively for IT students. So
Ah,
as a math student, I didn't have that, but
so
I'm sure
what did you use?
I taught myself R. I
Wow,
taught myself
awesome.
R, but I studied C and Java, but those are not useful in data science, right? So that's what I did. I studied SQL, so I was able to use that at least for the data engineering part, but Python is parang one of the things I wish I learned in college. So, ayun. But now, so many courses teaching Python, and the prompt engineering courses, that those are very interesting for me because it's not just parang learning what to put in your questions, diba? It's how you frame your question, it's how you parang put together a sentence or your prompt that would generate what you actually want to receive as an answer. So that's parang hindi naman siya programming language for me, but it's parang it's teaching you a way of thinking that's sort of similar to programming. So those
Like some,
are,
like
yeah,
procedural type of
yeah,
thinking.
that's true. That's true.
Uh-huh.
That we didn't have those before. So now it's so much easier. Stack Overflow is still here. So yeah, it's definitely more accessible now than before.
Okay, that's awesome. So yeah, hopefully what you said is parang ano, comforting na it's easier
Mhm.
to learn it now, ganyan ganyan.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's dive naman to the the legal and the ethical challenges. You hinted at
Mhm.
it earlier. Because one of the big discussions now is this technology really safe for people to
Mm.
use? There's a lot of gloom and doom there, no? Um, what are the some areas, like for example, how would you advise the typical practitioner on what to look out for when doing data science or doing AI? I mean, I don't know to what extent they were
Mhm.
actually taught parang ethics in their
That's true.
classes, no?
Mhm.
My guess would be not much. Pero yun nga eh, parang we want to, in a way, introduce the idea of ethics as early as possible.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, yun, any thoughts on that? And what would be your kind of your guiding principles
Yeah.
in
Mhm.
tackling this stuff? No?
For me, the parang the modeling itself part is learnable. It's not easy to learn, but it's a skill that can be learned over time. What's more important for me is the data. The data. So if you'd ask me how I'd regulate AI, I'd definitely go after the data first. So regulation of the inputs. Kasi 'di ba always saying the usual saying is that garbage in, garbage out. So, whatever data you put in, that's the same that would come out. So, if you put biased data, if you put skewed data inside, that's the model that you'd actually create. So, if you don't want a model that's biased, you don't want a model that discriminates, then go for the data that you know is not biased or is not likewise discriminatory, because that's where it all comes from. That's how the model learns from your data. So yun yung pinaka parang important ingredient in having a good, well, I don't know if if it's a good term to use, but a good AI.
Mm,
So
mm.
as long as you have good data, as long as you trust what you put in, then you can trust what comes out. So that's what I think. Because it's always risky kasi I think that's the issue with some of the countries now, right? What what kinds of data were inputted in ChatGPT? How does it know all these kinds of things? Where did the data come from? So if you can't trust what goes in, then you can trust what comes out. So you're not sure if it plagiarized, you're not sure if it copied from somewhere without permission. So since we don't know what entered the model,
Yeah.
then we can't actually 100% rely on what comes out. So yeah.
On that parang part about the data, no? Well,
Mm-hmm.
we know that we don't have much control over the design or
That's true.
the modeling of these parang
Mm.
tools. They're largely driven out of Silicon Valley, no?
That's true.
Um, so how do we handle that? Parang are we just going to be always hostage to all of these parang Silicon Valley developer, or is there a way? I'm trying to argue parang
Mm-hmm.
we
True.
it's like kind of like Google, take it or leave it. If you want to use
That's
Google,
true.
fine. If you don't,
Yeah,
if you don't want to use it, then don't. Pero you're losing out naman when you don't.
that's true.
So how do you handle kind of that issue where basically the design of these algorithms is really outside our control, and then you want to parang enforce some sort of integrity,
Yeah. Hmm.
on these things.
I'd say don't rely 100% on the output. Parang do some due diligence then on your end, that you police what comes out. So you don't, parang um if you want an essay to come out of it, for example, or if you ask it a question, then make sure that the output, you still verify, you do fact check first. You don't 100% rely on what comes out, since you don't know where it came from also.
Right.
So I guess that's the parang post check post check mechanism, parang ganon, since you
Mhm.
can police naman what comes in. So just check what comes out. Don't 100% rely on it, since it's been known to hallucinate.
Hallucinate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you looked into that kind of that hallucination phenomenon and come up with some ideas on how it, I mean, it can get quite technical, no? But
Yeah.
since you're kind of in both the legal and the data fields, have you reflected well, number one, why these things happen, and second, how could we make them better? How could we make them less prone to hallucination? Any thoughts on that?
That part I actually haven't thought about yet, but it's just funny to me the people that rely on ChatGPT's answers and then stick to it without parang double checking. Like that lawyer from the US who used ChatGPT for a pleading and then didn't even bother double checking what came out. So in the end, parang I think he's being sued for malpractice since
Mhm.
the cases they cited were all made up. Um, and for me that's like the worst you can do. Para you 100% relied on it and someone else is relying on you, someone's life is on the balance, diba? Parang that's the most negligent you can be.
Mhm.
Parang but yeah, hallucination is definitely interesting for me because I haven't made NLP models, so I can only read about them. But
Yeah, yeah.
it's so interesting how it confidently makes up stuff and parang be 100% just confident about it. Parang very very lawyer.
It sounds very
That,
authoritative, no,
yeah,
about what I think.
it sounds like a lawyer. How you
Hey,
can
did you hear
say
that
things.
story of a lawyer who got into trouble for using ChatGPT
Yeah,
to
yeah.
create a case, and then
Yeah.
pala yung mga citations
It's
niya
all
all
made
wrong.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So parang that's so negligent, especially I guess if it's parang a light case or a case that's not very serious, a civil case probably, then it's fine. But parang what if it's a criminal case and someone's life is dependent on you? Parang what's the worst that could happen? So yeah, it's very interesting. It's just funny to me how people still rely on it when it's been said to be hallucinating. So parang yeah.
Tama, tama. Okay, another question on
Mhm.
kind of the ethics, no. There's a fear that the trade-off will be between innovation and
Mhm.
regulation.
Mhm.
And of course, it feels funny if the Philippines ends up being the first country to regulate AI in Asia, considering where we are, no, in the grand
Yeah.
scheme of parang investments, no. So, any thoughts about how you might balance those two things? Because certainly we don't want these systems being, like running wild. But on the
Mhm.
other hand, being too restrictive can be bad then for innovation,
Yes.
no? So any thoughts there?
Uh, what's difficult well, regulation is not always a bad thing. It just becomes bad, I think, when it's too much. That, like as you said, it stifles innovation. It prevents people from experimenting because it's bad or it's prohibited by law.
Mhm.
What's difficult about regulation right now is our legislators are not technical people. It's not a bad thing because they're not required to be technical people, but para if you're trying to regulate something, it's good to at least have a knowledge about it. It's hard to regulate what you can't define. So, um, without parang even just the context of what artificial intelligence is, what machine learning is, it's really hard for regulators to know what are we actually regulating, how are we actually prohibiting it. So right now, I think the best we can do is parang control na lang the after effects, which is also bad. So I'm not actually sure where I stand because you have to be in the middle of parang you don't want the public welfare or the general welfare um to be parang always at the risk of being injured by AI without any recourse, without any parang recourse in law.
Mhm.
Because you can't put robots in prison, you can put the computers in prison. So what can you ask for? What can you go after when you get injured or at least parang yeah, injured by artificial intelligence. That's what I'm interested in now, more than putting a stop na completely don't use any AI, you're prohibited from using anything AI related, than because it stifles innovation. It can do so many things and it can help, particularly in healthcare.
Yeah.
That's what I'm really looking forward to when it comes to AI parang developments, because that's where we need AI the most. So ayun, parang instead of just putting a hard stop to AI right now, let's just wait for something to happen. Which is, it sounds so bad, but we need the test case kasi parang we need a test case before we actually do something about AI, which is hard. I know I've been trying to read cases from the US where they've had accidents caused by Tesla
Mm.
self-driven cars. What they actually, most of the time it ends in a settlement. So Tesla just settles with whoever was injured, but it's already parang starting the conversation. Who do we hold liable? Walang nagdra-drive. So who do we hold liable? Do we hold liable Tesla? But Tesla just made the car. It didn't parang drive it up to the point where it injured someone. So who do we actually hold liable? So that's where the conversation actually starts. So I think now that's the best we can do, as long as our regulators are not very knowledgeable about AI itself. That's where we can only be reactionary for now, which is bad, but I'm sure we can do better on the legal side.
Okay. What, based on your current parang experience getting into the legal profession, how what's the mindset change, if there is one, from someone coming from, let's, a data backgrounds, very quantitative, very
Mhm,
very statistical, very mathematical.
mhm.
Is there a change in parang pace on how you would, or mental orientation when you now take up law? And given that, no, let's say yun muna, what is there such a thing, like you need to reorient yourself studying all these legal stuff?
Yes, definitely. In math kasi it's very, I think this is how I always explain it. Because in math, diba, parang 1 plus 1 equals 2. It never changes. But in law, parang what is prohibited before may be allowed now. What may be allowed before is prohibited now. So it's always changing. It always develops. So it's not constant like math. I definitely always have to keep that in mind. Although parang um it's it's still developing, like math or like technology. So parang that's what is exciting about it also. So
Hmm.
it's not like I have to, some people argue kasi, some people say that they went to law school because they don't like math. Some people say that they studied math because they don't like reading, they don't like talking, they don't like speaking in class. So that's, I think, is the parang intersection between the two. It's all about problem solving, and you definitely always have something to solve when it comes to law. You always have a problem. It problems will always come up. So it's just like math in that sense, that you always have to find a solution for something, whether or not it's um I don't know, it's the easiest or it's the longest route that you have to take, but you definitely have something to solve all the time. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's how I'd explain it.
Yeah, okay, that's fair enough. um let's go back to projects, because I think that's
Yeah,
what
sure.
gets people excited.
Mhm.
So, knowing now what you know about the law, what would be your kind of your go-to parang list of things to do when initiating a new data project or an AI project? And then think about what are some interesting use cases that are affected by this. Let's say you came from insurance, for example.
Mhm.
I don't know if
Yeah.
you want to talk about that. No? So, just thinking out loud.
Um projects right now, before a few years before, when I was not so busy, pero I've been wanting to create like a project where I parang it's an NLP it's an NLP project where I analyze what's this, cases. So I analyze cases, I study them, and how I'll predict how the judge will rule on the case based on previous jurisprudence, which is I think some law firms in the US are now doing. They're doing predictive, not predictive, but yeah, predictive analytics on how judges are most likely to rule in this case given this set of facts.
Hmm,
So
interesting.
that's an interesting project because it's sort of forecasting but qualitative. Parang ganon. Which is, yeah, that's an interesting project that I haven't gone back to in so long. And the data will be all public data. So all Supreme Court cases are available online. So parang it's not an issue whether or not you scrape it. I guess there would just be copyright if you scrape it from somewhere in particular. But those are all public documents that can be accessible online. So parang that's an interesting project. What else? I think people have not here in the Philippines, but I've just been reading parang projects or how AI is being used abroad. So an interesting use case is um which is I was surprised to learn that it's been in the US for so long,
Hmm.
so many years. They have a system, I forgot what it's called, but once you input a suspect's parang information, they will be able to predict, or not predict, but churn out what possible penalty to impose, and whether or not they're more likely to do the same crime or do some other crime. But um yeah, that will affect the criminals ano eligibility for parole, those kinds of things. So I was surprised to learn that the US are they've been using those kinds of use cases for artificial intelligence, and they rely on it
Ah,
for
okay.
something as big as for example sentencing, diba? Which is, for me, it's unimaginable here. So those are the use cases I'm definitely interested in. And yun parang as a as a as a former machine learning engineer, yung mga projects na ganon are so interesting to do here, but parang I'm also scared at the same time of what what will come out of it, because naman our parang justice system, our it's all still people. So I'm sure that would eliminate some kind of bias when it comes to those kinds of things, but at the same time I'm not 100% confident about those also.
Yeah, yeah,
So
true,
ayun,
true.
yeah.
Pero
But
it's interesting that that thing even exists, no? So,
yeah,
do you see like the Philippines following a similar path or trajectory, or not necessarily?
not necessarily. I'm sure not necessarily. Um, I This isn't related to that, but when it back in the insurance company where I joined, parang people are always excited when they see dashboards, diba? When they see automated reports. So they think, oh, that's so cool, that's so easy, ganyan reports. But when it comes to the nitty-gritty part, when they have to validate, they have to correct the report so that it will enter the dashboard properly, it will turn out the report properly. Parang that's so difficult for them, and they don't 100% trust the output. Pero why did you say na parang you like it? Why were you so amazed about it? Now when it comes to the parang technical part, you don't like it anymore. So parang that's my view on the whole thing, na parang people just think it's so easy, it's so nice to have AI at work. But when it comes to the actual implementation, they might not 100% trust it, or they might not even embrace it at all. Because people
Yeah,
are still,
correct.
parang they still trust people, 'di ba? That's what I've noticed also with chatbots, because a lot of government agencies want to implement chatbots because it's
Mm.
easier daw, wala nang queues, hindi na need pumunta sa government offices. It's so easy, you can do it at home. But people still want actual parang interactions
Some
with people.
tangible
Yeah,
relationship, ano?
kasi pag parang what if I have additional questions na wala sa chatbot, I'll still want to talk to a person. Parang what if they don't understand my spelling, di ako marunong mag-type, I still want to talk to an actual person. So parang it's just all the hype right now, but people still want parang face-to-face connections. They still
Mm.
don't trust machines. So that's that's parang nawala sa tangent, but yeah, that's what I've always thought. Parang it's just all the hype right now, but people still really don't trust machines, not in the Philippines at least.
Tsaka ano
So
rin it's also a question of who implements the
yeah, that's
machinery,
mm-hmm.
the who's the developer. Like we've had a lot of
Mm-hmm.
massive, lalo na in the public domain, no?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mga systems that don't work.
Yeah.
Like everyone has a complaint about the national ID for that matter.
Yeah,
Ganyan. So yeah, I can't help if people will be skeptical
yeah.
about implementing, these things. Okay. Um, let's look at the kind of the long term, no? Kasi syempre this might be reaching already, but how do you expect AI to affect kind of the new entrants into the field of data science? Kasi lalo na, was it just the other day na ano, ChatGPT released itong code interpreter? I don't know if you've heard of it.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And I haven't tried it myself, at least as of this conversation. I
Mm-hmm.
plan to do it soon. But that actually disrupts kind of the whole thing. Now, suddenly you can be, I don't know if it's as extreme as I don't even need to know how to code, and
Yeah.
then ChatGPT will
Yeah.
kind of take care of everything for you, no? So I don't know, what do you think? I mean, how does the profession survive ChatGPT?
That's true. That's true. It's not just that, but yung ano also, GitHub Copilot, that's where it all started. Now it can code for you. I think it will definitely change how developers work. I'm not sure if it totally eliminate the need to learn coding, because I'm sure you still need to monitor what you're actually coding, and you
Yep.
can't 100% rely on Copilot to do what you want it to do. So I'm sure nothing will change. It's just that it will be easier. We still need people who know how to do Python, how to write in R.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, it won't do it by itself without someone prompting it. So maybe just additional parang learning on how to prompt it to do what you want it to do, but you still need to learn, but you still have to know what you actually want to do, because parang the clients, if you're talking to clients, the clients will talk to you, not to the co-pilot. So you need to map out the requirements. You're the one who needs to design this and that. You need to decide the parameters. The machine won't do it for you. So I don't think there will be any changes on what developers need to learn. It's
Yep.
still the same. It's just going to be definitely a lot easier
Yep.
with assistants like these. Yeah.
So it's kind of like a Stack Overflow on
On demand.
steroids. Parang ganun, no? Okay. Yeah, I kind of relate to that kasi I mean, I don't know if anyone I know actually codes like freestyle, no, without actually
Mm,
using Google or whatnot. Like even I have my own parang mga script templates.
yeah, yeah,
Like I'm my own chat GPT, mga past
yeah.
when I
Yeah.
just bring it up when needed, no.
Mm-hmm.
Sige. I'm just realized we're almost at the hour, no. Just thinking out loud. Do you have any parang bits of advice you want to give to people now that AI is upon us, or people who might want to follow a similar parang role as you, or about how to get started?
Mm-hmm.
And then I almost failed to ask, no. Of course, there's this prevailing, just have to mention it. Parang I wouldn't say stigma, but kind of impression that like a data or a or a tech career is biased against women, no? And
Mm.
you have a comment on that? I mean, you seem to be one of the, if ever there was, no, parang stellar examples of someone na
Ah,
didn't seem to have any problems with it, or baka yun lang yung impression ko, no? So any thoughts on that front, and parang parting thoughts for our ano until the next conversation at least.
yeah. I haven't encountered any kind of discrimination, thankfully. But yeah, most of my coworkers back in the insurance company I was in, most of us were women. There were around 20 people, and I think more than majority were women. Um, Everyone came from the same background, like statistics or math or engineering, and they were all women. So parang I don't see any kind of discrimination on that end. But that's just me. I maybe haven't parang been to other companies, or I haven't seen teams na majority are male, or there's a parang uh walang masyadong diversity when it comes to gender.
Yeah.
But yeah, in my case, I haven't experienced any. Although parang most of my higher ups were male. So ayun. Pero in terms of discrimination, I think there's none. I think we've evolved past that. Even in the STEM, where I studied,
Wasn't a
majority,
big issue.
yeah,
Yeah.
it wasn't a big issue. I think, yeah, I just think we're all past that. I think
That's cool.
people have realized that that transcends that transcends gender. Diba?
Mm.
Para it shouldn't be based on anything other than your skills, other than what you can do. It's not who you are.
Yeah.
That's what I'm sure. And I don't think there's a gap actually. What everyone can do, what the others can do. So yeah.
Okay.
And I hope that stays that way.
Yeah, of course, of course.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Thanks for
Thank
being a happy camper, answering questions. I'd really like to maybe in the next conversation delve into maybe some nitty-gritty, no,
Mhm.
on an
Sure.
actual project. Kasi ngayon, basically I'm having these conversations to get
Mhm.
people aware that there are people who actually do this stuff. It's not an
Mhm.
unknown profession, pero yun na nga, it's still an emerging
Mhm.
practice. So sige, thanks Noemi, and
Thank you.
hope to get you into another conversation soon.
Yes.
All right.